Hello, everybody. Mike and Jerry back on this last trading day of the year, December 29. This is episode 15 of Talking Trends. Jerry, how are you? How's your 23 wrapping up?
Well, I'm glad it's wrapping up. It's kind of the end of the year, and I've gone through almost 40. This will be my 40th one. End of year, um, this has not been as good as 20 and 21, 2021 and 22. So, um, but it's a good time for reflection on, accomplishments and mistakes and how we're going to make 2024 better. But it is nice. Tomorrow's nice too. It's be a really peaceful, calm day of being able to reflect on how we're going to make things better and get a little bit better every single year. But that's kind of, you can't expect to have double-digit profits every single year, and we didn't get one this year. So, but hopefully the markets will be more accommodating next year. How about you?
Yeah, same. I think it's been very slow, very boring. It was kind of meandering along until November, and then we got some V bottoms and tops. Had correlations, increase and get a lot of whipsaws. But yeah, this is kind of a normal occurrence um, for any investment strategy for any asset class. We've had some really strong returns past several years. Took a nice breather, but it was nice that a breather wasn't a down double digit year or something like that. We're down. Some guys are down, some guys are up small. But it's within like a 5% up or down. Mostly I see across the space, and that's pretty much a flat year as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I think maybe mentioned it on a couple of episodes recently, but yeah, just seeing a lot of consolidation still, and I'll be excited when we start maybe getting some new trades, new directions, some things we haven't been in a while. We'll see. I think looks like pressure could be building for some bigger moves in 24. Uh, so cautiously optimistic about that.
Oh yeah. Oh, you have to be
Yeah,
optimistic, and you're just end of the calendar doesn't really mean too much, honestly. But
right.
yeah, I think you need to. I keep reading these tweets. I did this one podcast, and I was asked these questions, and sort of out of context, these quotes are popping up on Twitter that I'm basically saying. I mean, it's probably because I gave an insufficient, complete answer, but it was sort of like, don't pay attention to performance. A trader needs to just grade himself based upon how well they followed the system. Well, okay. At some point in time, of course, we got to look at performance. And so if you followed 100% your system and you did every trade you're supposed to do and your system kind of sucks, then you need to do better. You got to fix that side of the equation. But so, I feel like we did pretty well. Our systems are decent, and I think our markets are good. The markets are great. We've got lots of diversification, and we followed them as closely as humanly possible as we could, the rules. And so I feel like I give myself a good grade, but eventually we don't want to have another one of these in 2024, and we shouldn't. Uh, these systems, if you long term enough and don't try to nail down the profits too quickly, but let the profits run, they have a tendency to make money almost every year. And they're very highly reliable on a 12-month look back. Um, they suck in every other regard, of course. They give back profits. They handled sugar crazily bad and give back profits, let profits turn into losses. And but they're pretty reliable if you over a full year period, I would say. And that's been, I think, your experience as well. And I know you did some research for me once that confirmed that. That it's really difficult to lose money um, over a 12-month period in these systems. It happens, but
Yeah,
it's about as good as you're going to get.
it's very hard to not get uh, influenced by a sugar type of market. And for those of you guys listening that aren't familiar with it, it was a very nice uptrend for a while throughout this year, and then a massive crash in November. And it's still kind of finding out, if it's going to keep going lower or it's going to find a bottom here and find some footing. But those things, much like observing one of your own favorite sports teams, the team could be doing well, but if one player sucks, that's all the fans will complain about is that, well, okay, we gotta fix this roster spot. We gotta fix this player. We gotta get him out of there. Well, hold on. We're not really sure, uh, yet if he's a real problem for the team. He might be doing something that's beneficial to the team because the team's winning, but oh well, he's not putting up the points or he's not hitting the home runs. Well, okay, maybe he's doing some other things. Maybe his defense is good and things like that are are contributing to the overall pie. And I think that's hard to always focus on the overall pie, much like it is focusing on the price of the market. Because we get just influenced by other stories and our own opinions or opinions of our friends and things. So, um, yeah, I think overall it seems okay. Some markets suck sometimes. Hopefully, we'll get some really juicy ones. Orange juice has been good, even though that's starting to go south lately, and then cocoa as well. That's probably going to get fucked up too at some point.
That's right.
But we'll see.
Well,
Um,
eventually, these all these markets they turn into big drawdowns or reasonably decent, nice drawdowns,
yeah,
and that's what the computer tells us to do. It's like, hey, don't put that trailing stop too close to the high because you'll get bounced out and get back in, get out again, get back in. You'll be whipsawed at entry, you'll be whipsawed at the end, in the middle. And so if you don't put the trailing stop, a material amount away from the highest price ever in the market in this trade, then you're just going to have issues with making less money. And it looks at all the trades over all the periods, the longs and the shorts in every single market. And it tells you exactly what worked the best. But now that definitely conflicts with what we would like to do. We don't want like to give back those profits. Um,
yeah,
I was giving an example today of if, oh yeah, if you take a small loss, then that's kind of inconsequential, right? You put a trade on, and pretty quickly it turns into a loss, and you get out, and no big deal. But if you have like a 10, 15, 20 ATR profit, quickly, pretty quickly, a few weeks, it goes up 10, 15, 20 ATRs, and then it collapses, and you give back, and you actually get out of the trade with your normal stop loss, 4 or 5 ATR stop loss, then that's the same trade, right? The computer says, oh, that's the same thing. We two trades. One had a max profit of 10, 15 ATR. One had max profit of 1 to 0, 0 to 1 ATR. You took a small loss, prescribed small loss. And the computer moves on and says, no big deal. That's If we treat all of those two type of trades the same, we're going to make more money. But we're like, oh my God, I gave back that 10, 15 ATR profit. This is like all hell's breaking loose here. And so giving back the amount of profit goes into our mental calculation, but it does not impact the computer at all. The computer, only in the sense that the computer says, well, using some of these parameters, you're starting to give back too much profit. You need to move it closer to the market, closer to the high, and protects some of that profit. But that amount the amount of protection that the computer says is the right amount is way too much for our human brains.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yes, that's right. It's depressing. It's
It is
depressing.
depressing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that maybe that segues into what we were talking about before we hit the record button on other trend traders on planet Earth. And I've also, this kind of, I also want to loop in maybe the theme of, say, trust and us being kind of radical. Me and you and a few other people out here. We're
It's
kind of
five of us.
diehard.
It's five people. I've counted them all up, all around the
Five.
world. There's
Yeah.
five classic trend followers who let profits run without vol management and correlation management. It's an official number. When it gets to be six, I'll make a press announcement. Yeah.
Six. Good. I think, um, and I've been following along. Have you been following along with this Harvard president?
Oh yeah.
Oh boy. So, you know, all of this is just so disappointing, especially when you work at probably the best or one of the top three universities on the planet, and then your president is getting caught plagiarizing. She's building her whole career seemingly on faking it and making shit up and doing whatever she has to do to get to the top. Um, and that might not be true, but it looks like that could be. So, that dovetailed into, you know, trust and, as investors selecting a fund to invest in or a manager to work with, they have to know that what they're doing is, their own work, and that they're not just going to be changing things just to look the part or look like something, look or to have other motives like gather assets. And they'll change no matter what. They're not bound by any code or any real 10 commandments, so to speak, to stay the course. I think we see a lot of this, not just in investment management, but a lot of businesses where guys pivot all the time, or guys been in the business for 30 years and he's had a lot of different programs, and his most recent one is 5 years, and oh, shockingly, it's a great 5 years. They just start a new one, start a new one, start a new one. They sweep away the old crap, they hide it, and then they're on to something else. And uh, that going with the trend traders, um, that are kind of not really sticking with the tried and true principles. They're they're not letting the evidence, or yeah, the evidence either in theoretical or in real life dictate what they're doing. Well, we got to think about our marketing here. Um, that's stuff that's hard to trust now, because then I don't know what might change your mind that's not based on real evidence in the future. Not sure. The famous guy in London who just said, "Yeah, we're done with Trent. I think it's dead." And then, of course, that was around the bottom. Of course, even he gets fooled too. But I don't know. It's just kind of like a rambling
I
thought.
think, yeah, I think some of the managed futures CTAs, their finger is like right on the button, like wanting to get rid of trend following. They can't do it. They never will be able to do it, but they love to do it. I mean, oh my God, they're so far away from real trend following anyways that they would love to kind of like be done with the whole mess, because they could then tell tell people that they don't use sort of a commodity like strategy that everybody knows about. Everybody knows how to do it. They can just go about their more sophisticated and quant strategies, but they would love to get rid of it. And I do think it's kind of sad that everything that they come up with has some sort of angle. It's always like a marketing angle. When they do this backtest research with all these scientists and quants and physicists that they have, that ad nauseum, they're talking about how wonderful and how many degrees they have. Um, they never come back with we're going to trade stocks that makes things better. We're not going to do so much fall management, correlation management. Uh, no, it's always some marketing angle. That doesn't fit with managed futures. Um, we can't trade stocks, and so 100% across the board managed futures CTAs, they've all come to this amazing magical conclusion by looking at the back test and using all their degrees and all their math knowledge, and all agree that you should not trade stocks. But if that's not true, then they don't do it. They don't offer their trend following program to their clients. They don't offer them the best strategy possible. It doesn't fit. It's not what they do. It's not what we want to do. So it's kind of a sad industry, very mismanaged in the sense that the clients are not getting the best efforts on the trend following, and there's no desire to create a product that would fit in with their little 5 or 10%. There's no desire to create a product that's their best ideas, their best thought processes, the best markets, the best trading, protecting and maximizing that track record. That is their true legacy. That's the objective legacy, not doing interviews and podcasts, trashing the turtles, and trying to saying inaccurate things about Richard Dennis, and to somehow build up this legacy of theirs of they invented trend following and exported it to the United States. It's all pretty silly. But I wanted to comment. You brought in this Harvard thing, and I read an article today when I was up at 4 o'clock with my dogs and Google News, and this article was fascinating because I never read this before. But immediately when I saw these three presidents testifying before Congress, the first thing that I thought about was who told them to say this, Now, if it had been one of them, I would have said the same thing, right? Of course, because I'm cynical and I'm suspicious. They had a big meeting, preparation, like debate prep. But they all three basically had the same answers, and they're sitting side by side. And so they all had the same answers. So then it's pretty obvious that there was a strategy, and the strategy failed miserably. And so this article gave some insight to it. And basically what Harvard did was hire a law firm. They're shocked, right? They hired a law firm. It was a guy who used to be on the Harvard Corporation, on the Harvard board. They brought him in and probably paid him a lot of money to advise her on how to answer these questions. And you just knew that if you're trying to, people in general just despise hearing lawyers talk, right? So Harvard's solution was have a lawyer tell her what to say, right? I mean, out to fucking lunch without a clue. They have no clue. And what it was even funnier was, I didn't find this surprising at all, is that Harvard has a whole team of people who would be called in normally to handle these situations. Oh no, in this situation, no. We've got a plan, we've got a process in place. Push it to the side, call this law firm. It says that Harvard sidelined their outside public relations consultants and crisis communications experts, which hopefully doesn't include too many lawyers, right? And that's probably the reason that they hired the lawyers, because there was no lawyers representing them. And it's just so stupid. You see these politicians. There was one yesterday here, Nikki Haley. She gets into a similar situation where anyone with a high school degree or less could have told her, when you get asked a question about the Civil War, do not respond like this. It's just like...
I missed what she said. What did she say? Do you remember?
Someone asked, no, I don't know exactly, but I don't remember. I've read it, but it's something like along the lines of, what do you think about the Civil War? What were the lessons of the Civil War? Yeah, I already said, tell me, what is your impression of when I mention the Civil War, what comes to mind? And initially, there was a lot of things that came to mind except one thing. She left out slavery. So then she spent yesterday correcting herself.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's a little bit like talking to the experts about a market, like what's going to happen in bonds or stocks this year. And I read another article this morning from my friend at Thales, who sends out the daily hedge fund headline email, which I highly recommend. And I get 90% of my tweets from Thales. And he was just saying, here's what Wall Street predicted last January, this past January, and here's what actually happened. And so Wall Street was totally wrong on everything. So sometimes when you want to know what to do, what to say, don't talk to the experts. Go with your gut, go with your heart. The world is a complicated place, and speaking directly and forthrightly and honestly, shockingly, is usually the very effective, maybe the best thing to do.
I agree. I think. Uh, I
You
mean,
have good
what
you have good success with some of your tweets and some of your posts on LinkedIn, and I think that's what you're trying to get
yeah,
across to people.
it's funny, it's I think when you spend a lot of time trying to think about what to say, how to say it, what's the perfect way, you don't you give it some time, but not too much time. It's like 5 to 15 minutes. That's it. Done. If you have to think too much, you're probably trying a little too hard, or you're you're trying to say it in a way that's just not going to resonate. Um, I think one lap through of a read your work and edit it, but that's it. It's quick, very quick. And I think if it takes you longer to say 5 or 15 minutes at least to write it out, I think you're probably not clear on what it is you're trying to say anyway. And also, I believe that if you're having trouble saying writing something, say it out loud, because a lot of people will try to explain something, and you're like, hold on, what is it? You got 10 seconds, say it. And you're like, well, I just, trend following is about going with the trend, and it's like trading a lot of market. Okay, then just fucking write that down. That's it. You don't just think about it that much more than that. You know, well, we're a global asset, multi-asset, equal opportunity. Shut the hell up. Just what is it you're doing? That's it. Quick, done. Move on. And I think in this day and age where people just have this microphone in front of them all day long, they they get twisted up on what to say. It's just speak from the heart. That's what's going to resonate with people too. You trying to get your message across. What's your business about? What are you about? What do you stand for? You know, quick stuff. You know that that's meaningful. Everyone's trying to talk on multiple sides of their mouth, and no one knows what anyone's saying. I don't know what he's saying. He's That made no sense to me. I know I know he's trying to do. He's trying to play, but like I I think people, and I think this is going to be a growing trend as we go forward here, is the straight talk, and people are going to appreciate that. Oh, that's nice. See, he just told me. He didn't give me this whole marketing spiel, you know, where
I think
he's
some
really trying to,
people,
you know,
I think some people who do that in their own job talk bullshit like that, and they're not plain spoken. I think they appreciate more bullshit in people who are not plain spoken. I think in this day and age, people are so cynical and they're so on the lookout for insincere people that they're kind of predicting um, that people are not being sincere when they actually are being sincere and they are trying to be plain spoken and transparent and honest. Um, so when they're not that way, it's just like a blinking red light.
yeah.
No one buys this BS. I mean, one of the things I think is kind of a really sad crime is that someone never got. We're all over the board on this show. No one
Let's do it. I mean,
ever
why not?
got. Yeah, no one ever got to Pete Rose and said, "Dude, I understand you can't. No one likes you. I understand you can't shut up. You cannot. You think you're really good at communicating with people. Let me just tell you one thing. Bottom line here, we got one bottom line, and that is, you got to get into the Hall of Fame. I'll tell you how to do it. The number one thing is shut your mouth. Don't talk to people. Don't have this attitude. And here's 5 sentences you're allowed to say, but you got to practice like 1,000 times because when you say these 5 sentences, people are going to get pissed off at you. You need to practice being a nice. You're not a nice person. No one believes you're a bullshit. And he had the worst PR, the worst advice ever, if he even took any advice on how to get into the Hall of Fame. And he's just has no credibility. Everything he says, no one would believe. I wouldn't believe Pete Rose if he told me that he just read the weather report and it was going to rain tomorrow. I probably would not believe it. And that's how he is. He's so polarizing and alienating. But even nice people, when they can be falsely accused of not being sincere and honest and plain spoken. But golly, man, in this day and age, if you have this problem and you're kind of trying to BS people, they pick it up immediately. You don't have a
Very fast.
prayer.
Yeah.
Very fair, very fast. It's only other people who are pretending. So managed futures people pretend, and their clients pretend. So yeah, they like to pretend, both people. So yeah. Uh,
I don't, on
just
that point, I don't think most people, if you think about how you spend your own money, all right, you like coffee, right? I like coffee. Um, are you, and maybe this is a bad example, are you, say, always on the hunt for the best cup of coffee? I know you like Third
yes,
Rail in New York,
yes,
but are
yes, I
there,
am.
how many other places have you been to? I'm sure there's 1,000. Have you been to 1,000? Probably not.
Oh
I'm sure you've
well,
been
I'll
to.
say one thing. Yeah, that's it's kind of a contradictory answer. I have two things that are competing with me on that. One is I'm constantly looking for better coffee. I'll take anybody's advice on better coffee. I read an article today about from maybe, yeah, I can't remember where it was from, maybe Thales again. It was somebody had tasted 3,000, over 3,000 bottles of wine, and they have 50
Mm,
recommendations. Now, I kind of quit drinking, but I may start drinking wine again one of these days. And so I'm obsessed with this. I want to, and it's like moderately priced wine too. So, um, and if someone was to recommend coffee to me, I mean, I would like get on my computer and order it. Now, you bring up third rail in New York City. Okay, I'm in New York City. I know that where there's great coffee and I need coffee, it's 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Not time, not energy to go find somebody better than third rail.
right.
Now, if you let me Google it on my computer and have it delivered to my home where I can make it, or if you're going to come visit me in New York and come over
Hmm.
to my house and you're going to bring me a brand new coffee that I've never tried before, I'm down with that. But you got the efficiency and the time and the energy, uh, and so I got both of those kind of compete against each other. But yes, always on the lookout for the best of anything and everything that I am interested in.
I think
I
that's
hope that was the correct answer.
I think that's a real answer. I think that's real.
Yeah,
Because there
yeah.
is a trade-off to doing all this work to find the next cup, and how the hell can you even tell half the time? Your taste buds and your mood and all this is going to influence your tasting experience day to day. So it's a lot of work. But yeah, to that point of how people go about deciding spending their money, who to invest with, and the these big firms, these big funds. Are you think they're do you think they're really sifting through all of the competitors, all of the people, all the other funds that they could invest with, and deep diving on their performance and stats and things like that? Or are they just kind of buying a brand? They're kind of buying, well, these are the big ones we are going to go with. There's other things that are important to us besides um, Jerry's radical views, Mike's radical
Radical views.
brashness. No, no.
Radical.
They're
Radical
like,
views. Yeah,
we
yeah,
buy brand,
yeah.
we buy big. That's what we care about. And you know what? This tastes good enough. And you know what? It's right down the road. I'm going there, baby.
You bring up a good point. I mean, this reminds me of last weekend's Top Traders Unplugged reunion show that you got to listen to. It's really good. And episode 2 is tomorrow. They do a great job. I really like listening to Top Traders Unplugged. It's my go-to podcast. But Alan brings up this idea that uh, some people don't want you to solve for the best idea. They have career risk. They may get fired. They want something different than something that's the best. And so that's kind of foreign to me. And it's kind of sad that you have to live like that. I would go talk to institutions, talking about classic trend following, one entry, one exit, and the stop loss, trading stocks instead of stock indices as part of that big portfolio, not using vol management and vol targeting. And I felt like that the 4 or 5 people sitting around the table that would give me their personal money way before they would advise be able to advise the firm or the pension plan or the endowment or the company or the fund of funds to invest in Chesapeake. I mean, that was not ever going to happen
Right.
because it was too bottom line. It was too like, this is what is great. This is what's the best. Put me in. They wouldn't even, they can't even um, say to themselves, we're going to have 10 or 20 managers here in our portfolio. They don't all have to have the best sharp. We'd prefer a CTA who is much different than one who is very similar. They can't even say that because they need each line item is going to be judged on its acceptability, and sharp ratio might be part of that, and other ideas as well. So um, 100% of CTAs don't trade one entry, one exit, and a stop loss. Don't trade stocks. I would automatically be qualified to be in almost everyone's portfolio, even a portfolio that contains 100% CTAs, and yet that's not how it ever played out.
Yeah, I think there's not this drive for seeking out the best and leaving no stone unturned because they don't know about me. A lot of these funds don't know about me. These investors
No,
over there
no.
or the big ones here. No, they don't know even who I am. Or you even. Like, oh, yeah, Jerry, Chesapeake. Uh, yeah, they've been around for 35, 40 years. Well, I don't know. Yeah, like what are you guys doing over there? You're looking at 10 funds all all year. Are you looking at other things?
You take
I
a
don't
guy.
think so.
No, you take a guy like Mulvaney. He should be in everybody's portfolio. Everybody. What is the reason Mulvaney wouldn't be have $1 billion under management? That is really an indictment on the industry. And investors, investors, and people who invest with CTAs, and people who don't invest with CTAs. Um, if the guy was secretive and no one knew how he traded, he probably would be at $1 billion. And it's a crazy situation, pretty crazy situation we have.
Yeah, I think I've always found it's much more rewarding too that for me at least to be able to like what I do like what I do with you, like what I do with pretty much all my other investors that are around here that I can go have a coffee with them and go to Third Rail. We can talk about a lot of different things. It's not how we doing this month, how we doing this quarter, how we doing this year, where it's just all very kind of rigid and there's no room for rapport or friendship and trust and things like that. It's just kind of what have you done for me lately? And I just don't see it, I don't know, being a long-term uh, a great solution. I think you get a lot of jumping around, and I understand that's why other firms will copy. They don't want to be too different, because then you get people asking, why are you different? It's like, no, we're like these guys, but better. I understand why people start copying, and not taking much risk or really thinking new ways. They're not going to think about new stocks. They're not going to think about stocks. That's too risky to the business. Um, it might not have any. It might have a positive effect on their product, but the product isn't just the product. It's the business as well. That is also key for a lot of people, I think. But
Yeah. Mm,
that's my rant. Um,
yeah.
but
Oh, another thing that was funny. I mentioned this in Spaces this morning. I think it was kind of funny was another guy who participated. It was like eight people, and poor Richard was seven. One versus seven, and his technology kind of broke down. And I don't think he's on tomorrow's episode, the final part two. But it's kind of a shame. But
hmm,
I do get a lot of good material from even when Richard, especially when Richard's not on there, because I agree with what Richard says usually, but some of the other things are kind of fun and easy to make fun of. But I like Nick, and Nick is kind of interesting. Nick, I listened to a podcast of Nick's yesterday with Corey, and honestly, I had a hard time following it because you had two nerdy quants on there, really two smart guys, Corey and Nick. And I had to slow it down, and I've got to go back and listen to it again because was at a level a little above my normal speed. But okay, so when he was on Top Traders Unplugged last weekend, he had this crazy quote, and I was just could not believe this quote, you know? And I like this guy. He's good. He's really smart, and he has a good business at Goldman Sachs, I believe. And he's a
yeah,
good trend follower type. And anyways, it was so crazy, quote unquote crazy. I had to make it my pinned tweet. Yeah. And here he goes. I mean, maybe I'm missing something here, but he goes, "We have been thinking for years how to complement a 60/40, but I haven't seen any radical view coming out and saying, do we have to complement it at all? Or possibly try to think of ways of replacing it." I'm like, dude,
he
you got to
hasn't
show
seen
up
any.
on.
I mean, you're there
No.
all the time saying that.
Niels is, doesn't say anything. They're all like
Oh, I
silent.
haven't either, actually.
And I'm
I
like, they're
haven't.
like,
I know a guy.
I think Rob and Niels are going, I wish I hadn't either. We have this one special friend of the program who he won't shut the fuck up. It's all he wants to talk about. Trend following plus nothing. Nothing is there. It's not even an allocation to stocks. It's okay. I think when I did the research, we did the research a long time ago. It's probably gotten better for stocks, but I think, when we did it, we had a reason for doing it. And I think it said, okay, if you look at most all the data, 20, 30 years, whatever, you should have 20% long S&P and 80% systematic long-term trend following.
Okay.
Now maybe it's a little bit more. I
Well,
don't
given
believe
recent,
that
10,
yeah,
15 years or something. Yeah,
yeah. Well, last year was no good. Last year was a bummer for that.
sure.
But anyways, it's going to be around that part. No CTA to their credit, I will say. No managed future CTA that I know of, except a couple, Eric and Milburn and Abby, all have products. Eric has one product, and that has a permanent long only allocation to stocks. But I've never heard any CTA, managed future trend following plus a lot of other crap CTA say. And part of our crap that we add is a long only portion of maybe that would hurt the incentive fee, the management fee. Probably would not be a good thing. It needs to be active management, I guess. But I bet they thought about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good product because stocks have done so well. It
Yeah, well, that's the
flies in the
thing, you know.
yeah.
What will change? I'm sure it'll change. I'm sure they'll have a, every strategy sucks, goes through its period of suck, and it hasn't sucked. So adding any long only equities component, especially US equities, would have helped anything you tested, most likely over the past 10, 15 years. Oh, we should just do more of that then. Yeah, well, careful because you can, you got to remember the 70s, got to remember the 30s, got to remember before that, got to remember other countries and their lulls as well. Um, could happen again. It will happen again. We just don't know when. So, yeah, I see more and more of that. Um, and I wonder if that's another, just again, like a poker table hunch. A lot of people adding this long only component. Well, yeah, you added it within the last couple of years. Well, no shit, you did because it tests really fucking well. We'll see. Maybe it makes it an easier product. Um, kind of a one-stop shop. I understand. And kind of helping this. People will, no matter what, they're not gonna give up on their long only equities because it's part of their religion, so to speak. But I think I don't know. I think our time is coming once again to where the trend following only will reign supreme. Show It'll show. It doesn't need help. I think the longer and longer we
Yeah,
go, the more and more that's going to be evident. Not
yeah.
investment
I mean, that's
advice. I
another.
have to disclaim that. Not investment
That's
advice,
right.
but
That was another thing too that never came up. They did have a segment where, you know, I think Alan has spent his entire career um, trying to uh, working at creating investments with multiple CTAs, which I think is a great idea, and probably multiple CTAs. Most of those CTAs was not. I'd say 100% of them probably did other things other than classic trend following. Uh, and I think he's a little hesitant to let his life's work kind of not to defend it, right? And I agree that I really don't disagree. I'm happy that I have the five of us are alone and being left alone to trade the best trend following possible and without any competition from any kind of the bigger firms. So it's kind of fun and funny. Um, but never did it ever come up with a group of CTAs who purportedly trend follow and like it and talk well about it because it is generating all their profits. Um, do you even need something else? Where is there this evidence that of all the different trend following strategies out there, of all the different hedge fund strategies out there, there's one that needs to diversify internally itself? Now, you have, you put together a big portfolio, you have all different types of hedge fund strategies, long, short, macro, CTA, trend following, merger, ARB, all these names. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I no clue what these terms even mean. And so your job as this manager is to put all of these CTAs and hedge funds together, but one of the group says not good enough. I have my self-esteem is so low that I need to figure out a way to add other stuff to what I do and not wait for you to say, hey, no big deal, because I'm going to offset your drawdowns with long short and or other strategies. So don't worry about it. Just give me the best that you've got on the trend following side. It's really a sad, mismanaged situation.
it is. I like people who stand for something and they, again, back to a trust. I know what they're going to do. Like, I know Jerry is going to follow trends for me. He's not going to change and add some negative skew strategy in there to help his personal situation out by landing some big client. Because I don't know what the product is. I think that's very valuable to know what it is you're buying. And um, I know there's a lot of self-serving people in this world and in this industry too. But you know, knowing what you're buying and being honest about what you're selling to people, and uh, ensuring that you're going to keep doing it over the long run is very important, I think. You know, I don't want to hear this trend follower who's had great success with trend follower then say trend following sucks, and then he changes, and then he comes back. Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't know what he is. I don't know what he is. I don't know what that is. Then I don't know what product it's going to be. I don't know where the performance is coming from. I don't know where it's going to come from in the future because they might change something. Yeah. Take a stand. Do your work. Take a stand. That's all I have today, I think.
Oh, good.
Um,
Well, we went a little bit longer than usual, but I think it's good that we, like a big rocket ship, we had this big, huge blast off,
yeah.
and then we're done. Yeah.
Go different directions. Shoot this way, that way, this way, and peter out, and then we save it.
That's right. Exactly. Yep.
All right, everyone.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Uh, Happy 2023. We're going to be, coming back with a vengeance at 24. And my goal is to make this a regular weekly. And, I know there's sometimes where Jerry might not be available. I'll hop on and rant a little bit. Try to be as concise and sounding smart, sounding as educated as I can. But yeah, I think 2024 is going to be wonderful. Thank you all for listening. Jerry, have a wonderful weekend and Happy New Year. Talk to you next week.
Yep. Talk to you next week. Happy New Year, Mike.